Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Core Network's latest webinar. We're really excited about your attendance and the panelists we have gathered here today to discuss with you about our topic, which is career development in urban forestry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And my name is Michael Summers. I am Director of Grants Management here at the Core Network. A quick reminder that, as always, you can find information about the Core Network's webinars and other events under our events tab and on our website at corenetwork.org. We also will, share later on about other upcoming webinars in our social media platforms and the Crew Leader, which is our newsletter. All right. We're really excited about this. And just a few reminders, please stay on mute until the Q&A. If you have questions during the session, drop them in the chat. Captioning is available and enabled. And if you can't find it, you can look at the bottom lower toolbar to turn on the captions, and also there may be three dots that you can click on to find your captioning. All right. The session will be recorded. Please stay for important reminders at the end, and don't forget to take our post-event survey. Um, Today's topic, like I mentioned earlier, is career development in urban forestry. It is to identify career paths and certifications, explore implementation strategies, and discover actionable opportunities for the growth and development of urban forestry throughout the nation. All right. We have amassed a tremendous group of practitioners and experts in the area of forestry and urban forestry. We have Daisy Morgan, who is with the U.S. Forest Service Southwestern Regional Office. She is with the Office of Volunteer Services. Phil Graff, owner and founder of Great Lakes Urban Forestry, who is an arborist. And Quinn Mendelson, who is the program director at Rocky Mountain Youth Corps in New Mexico. Riley uh, um, Schleiss is with us from the city of Vancouver. She is the program coordinator for public spaces. She is a public space specialist for the city of Vancouver. And Jamie Vidich, director of educational products and services, International Society of Arboriculture. We are really excited to have them here with us today and look forward to a robust engagement with you all. All right. And with that being said, first up for us today is Daisy Morgan, who will give her presentation on behalf of the USDA's Forest Service.
Thanks, Michael. Hello, everyone. I'm Daisy Morgan with the U.S. Forest Service calling in from New Mexico. I use she, her, aya pronouns, and my visual description is I'm wearing glasses. I have long, dark brown hair that's tied up, and I'm in a red checkered plaid, and in my background is one of my favorite trees local to New Mexico. It's an alligator juniper tree. And I currently work at our Southwestern Regional Office. I work in volunteer and workforce development partnerships, and I'm also a certified forest therapy guide with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. And I'm just going to give you a little highlight about some of the options and pathways that you can find in the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service. So a little bit more about me. All these different words can be used to describe me, but some that I'm going to focus on here in this presentation is that I'm the first in my family to go to college and to go to grad school. And I'm also the firstborn and the first in my family to be a scientist and a teacher. I also have mixed heritage from European descent and settler colonialism, as well as ties to the Diné or the Navajo Nation. I do love languages. I speak English, a bit of Spanish, Diné, and Kimru, which is Welsh, one of my ancestral languages. And I firmly believe in volunteering as a volunteer specialist. So not only do I help manage our volunteer programs, I also volunteer with organizations. So moving on, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the Forest Service. It's part of the executive branch, which is part of, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, as I mentioned. We do manage about 193 million acres nationally, which includes 154 national forests and 20 national grasslands across the nation. We also are organized in a way where we have 5 different divisions within the Forest Service, and those are the National Forest System, Business Operations, State, Private, and Tribal Forestry, Research and Development, and International Programs. We also have 9 regions across the United States. Don't ask me where Region 7 is because there is no Region 7 anymore, but we have regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10 across the nations, which do include Hawaii and other Pacific islands and U.S. territories. And I'm coming to you from Region 3, which is the Southwestern region. On the next slide, we can see that the southwestern region consists of 11 national forests and 3 national grasslands over about 20.6 million acres and does include the states of Arizona, New Mexico, and a little bit of our grasslands in Oklahoma and Texas. Now, the Forest Service has an awesome motto, which is caring for the land and serving people. And that's one of my favorite things about working there is that we get to steward the land, but also really provide civil service to the public and to people. And really, my job involves a lot of relationship building and tending and stewarding relationships in addition to the landscape. And the overall mission of the Forest Service is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of our nation's forests and grasslands to meet the needs of present and future generations. And at the Forest Service, we do have core values that include diversity, interdependence, safety, stewardship, and conservation, which are our pillars for all the work we do. And really, we all enjoy connecting people to our public lands as public land managers. Now, moving on, as I mentioned, I'm from the Southwestern region, which in the Forest Service, we're known as the Innovation Region. And in the past couple of years, we did set out a regional strategy that we hopefully will guide us for the next 20 years. And some of the exciting things about that strategy is we're really looking at both the local lens and a broader lens. So that includes thinking about, nationally, our national prosperity, our regional vitality. We're really thinking a lot about climate change, but we're also considering our international ecological connections and how what we do does affect not both, our region, the nation, but also the planet as a whole. So that's pretty exciting. Um, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Moving on to the next slide, I see I have some of my colleagues here who work in urban and community forestry. I do not, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about our urban and community forestry program. It is the only federal program dedicated to growing and maintaining urban trees, forests, and green spaces. It's been authorized way back in 1978 through the Cooperative Forestry Assistant Act, and it allows us to assist states and partner organizations in applying nature-based solutions to chronic and emergent economic, social, and environmental challenges. It's also one of the first programs that really has been under the latest administration, the Biden-Harris administration's Justice 40 initiative, which really focuses on more equitable access to green spaces and being more inclusive with all of our partnerships and really serving communities that maybe historically we haven't always been able to reach. This slideshow will be available after the presentation, so I have some hyperlinks so you can learn more about it, including our 10-year urban forestry action plan, which is 2016 to 2026. And also just another little infographic that shows a little bit about how urban forests really are important to the Forest Service since they're not technically part of our public lands that we manage, but they do provide a lot of benefits, over $18 billion. But they also provide other ecosystem services such as air pollution removal, carbon storage, and reduced energy use. And really, we're thinking about, looking at what communities have trees, what communities don't have trees, and how can we think about equitable access to trees, green spaces in our urban areas. And so it's really exciting that we have this part of the Forest Service. My specialty in my department is workforce development partnerships, which includes helping people find careers with the Forest Service. As someone who hasn't followed perhaps the traditional pathways of graduating, going to school, and immediately finding a career, I had a little bit of a spiral or another pathway, but I did enter the Forest Service through one of our internship programs called the Resource Assistant Program. I started that internship in 2017 and got a permanent gig in 2019. And so there's all kinds of different pathways and doors into the Forest Service. You might think of traditional jobs such as foresters, firefighters, and those kind of jobs, but we actually have all kinds of jobs for all kinds of skill sets. And by the way, if you are interested in firefighting, we do have a seasonal wildland firefighting event, a hiring event that ends today. So go to the link and apply if you're interested in firefighting. I'm almost done with this presentation, just a couple more slides to show other career programs that we have. And those involve partnerships, which is also my specialty. We have a lot of different youth programs. The program I came from that I just mentioned, other kinds of scholar programs, internships. Some of them do include schooling or being in school, some of them don't. And so you can go to our website and find out more about these programs. And of course, you can reach out to me if you'd like to learn more. And I think I just have maybe one more slide that has some links. And I would say, USA jobs and applying to federal service can often be a barrier. So we do have some links on how to apply, some great webinars. We also have recruitment events and a job seeker database that you can sign up for. So all kinds of ways to figure out how to get into the Forest Service, or perhaps you want to work with one of our partners, which many of are on this panel. And so we just encourage you, networking is probably my biggest pro tip. Network, 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 and you'll find your career one of these ways. So look forward to hearing from our other panelists and to your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so, so very much, Daisy, for joining us, despite your um, ailment, recovering from your travels, and making the commitment to be here with us to express exactly what is needed out here in this area of development with regards to forestry, specifically urban forestry. And with that, moving into the arboriculture world is Jamie Vidic, who is next up to speak with you about what that looks like and credentialing.
Thank you,
Jamie,
Michael.
thank
Hi,
you.
everyone, and it's good to be here. I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. Um, let's see. Okay. All right. Is everybody seeing that well? Okay, perfect. So I am Jamie Vidic with the International Society of Arboriculture. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the ISA, as well as some information that we have discovered through our surveys of arborists and urban foresters about the current state of the workforce. First of all, what is ISA? ISA is a professional society for arborists and urban foresters. And we do a variety of things. One of them is to promote the professional practice of arboriculture. How do we do that? One way is to inform the public about the benefits of professional tree care. We also provide publications, scientific research, education for professional arborists and urban foresters. We are a network, a global network of arborists and urban foresters who can collaborate and connect through the ISA. We also establish professional standards and certifications. And finally, we promote environmental stewardship and sustainability, especially of urban and community forests and the ways that they improve overall health and the well-being of communities. So what is this network? ISA has currently around 26,000 members in 70 countries, and we have 69 components. And components, by components, I mean regional chapters or state chapters of ISA, as well as associate organizations that partner closely with ISA. And through these components, as well as the many members that we have around the world, we have a pretty strong network of arborists and urban foresters. And who are these members of ISA? Well, here's a picture showing just some examples, but ISA members can work in all different types of sort of areas of practice, I'll say, from working outside, working in a tree, to working in a lab, in an office, etc. And we at ISA do a survey every 5 years of ISA members, as well as just arborists and urban foresters in general. We sent this survey out to about 100,000 people every 5 years, and we asked them a standard set of questions. But one of the questions we ask is, what is your current area of practice? And we got, the last time we did this survey was in 2021. We got about 10,000 responses. So these are the people that make up ISA's membership, but they're also the people who are working out there in arboriculture and urban forestry generally. So what are they doing? The majority of our respondents are working in commercial and residential tree care. That was about 42% of respondents. And mind you, people could select more than one area of practice. So these are not going to add up to 100%. But about 22% were working in urban forestry, 22% were working in public works or government, 17% were working in landscaping and nursery, 16% in municipal forestry, and 16% in utility or vegetation management. The other category makes up a number of other options such as education, training, research, extension, supplier positions, and so forth. So these are the people that are working in this sector. And we asked them after this, we had another question. What are the primary issues and challenges you currently face in your career? So take a look at that first largest challenge at the top. Hiring qualified staff and managing workforce turnover. You can see the responses in 2012, 2017, and 2022. And you can see here that obviously hiring qualified staff is becoming more and more of a challenge in urban forestry in recent years. It's the top challenge facing the people that we surveyed. So clearly there is a lot of opportunity right now for career development, career opportunities for people who are qualified, and even people who are entry level who want to get into urban forestry. Let's say you are entry level and you want to get into urban forestry or arboriculture, or you're coming, as Daisy said, from a non-traditional sort of career path. You're coming from something else into arboriculture and urban forestry. What ISA provides that can sort of level expectations with employers, with the government, with the public, is credentials. ISA credentials, we have 5 different credentials as well as a qualification. Most of them have an eligibility requirement. So if you would like to earn an ISA credential, such as the ISA Certified Arborist, it requires that you bring 3 years of work experience for that specific credential. So if you're getting into an urban forestry position at an entry level, make sure that you're documenting that experience if it's not formal, for example, through an employer, because that could contribute to an ISA certification down the road. But what you get with these certifications is an opportunity to present your qualifications, especially if you don't have, for example, a college education in arboriculture, horticulture, or something like that. Employers will recognize this. And the ISA website has a certified arborist application guide, which provides all of the eligibility requirements as well as the expectations for the certification exam that you need to know in order to consider this credential. And as I said, the certified arborist is one credential, but we also have credentials focused on utility specialist, tree climbing, municipal specialist or urban forestry, and a board certified master arborist credential. The ISA also provides educational opportunities for those who are working in urban forestry or arboriculture. We have a variety of educational products. Some of those include study guides to prepare for these credentials. We also have a curriculum in tree risk assessment. If you are credentialed already with the certified arborist credential, you may wish to become a specialist in tree risk assessment. We also offer a variety of online courses that provide a foundation in arboriculture and urban forestry topics. Being a part of the ISA network, whether as a member or as a member of some of ISA's chapters, or just following ISA's web presence, social media presence, we provide a lot of opportunities for educational programming. There's some of our chapters, such as the UK Arbor Association, has a whole series of website. The ISA has an events calendar that provides an opportunity to find training or education workshops in arboriculture and urban forestry related topics. The Tree Fund has webinars, and you can find all of this through ISA's website or our partners' websites. And finally, we provide through ISA publications such as best management practices and safety standards for performing tree work safely. And that concludes my portion of this presentation. Let me close out of here. But I encourage you, if you are getting into this field, to explore ISA's website and look for opportunities there.
Thank you so very much, Jamie. We greatly appreciate that information. It was right on time. And now up next is our arborist, practicing arborist and partner out here in the urban forestry world, Phil Graff.
Thanks, Michael. I'm sure glad I got to go after Jamie because a lot of what he just said is going to tie into some of the things we've been working on here in Northwest Indiana. So I'm coming to you from Rolling Prairie, Indiana, which is, if you're familiar with our area, it's right at the bottom of Lake Michigan, at the very southern area of the Great Lakes region between Michigan City and South Bend. And I'm going to talk specifically about 3 projects we've been working on in urban forestry over this past year. And the first 2 are going to tie into the third one. I think you'll see it ties in pretty nicely. We're working with a couple of communities in areas of, let's see, let me advance my slide here. In areas of helping them spend their grant funding for tree pruning, tree removal, and tree planting, just overall canopy restoration. Now, a lot of these urban forestry projects that we see here in the Great Lakes region, and really all of the Midwest nowadays, really have their roots in the emerald ash borer natural disaster of 2 decades ago. And why do I say this? Because at that time, prior to that time, there was very little funding out there for urban forestry projects, and nor were they really needed. The ones that you saw were typically reforestation or tree planting projects that were usually from like the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which stemmed from the Farm Bill, and they were locally administered by state level DNRs. But it wasn't until the emerald ash borer came in and killed millions of trees, which really called for the need for more funding to go for especially tree removal to make these communities safe and get rid of all these dead ash trees. In some communities, it was upwards of 30%. And then, of course, reforestation of those canopies. And so those really were coming out and reaching their full capacity around 2012 to 2015. Now, what we're seeing, this grant funding that we're seeing still to this day, the federal funding that's out there now is like no other that we've seen in our industry. This is the first time we've had this level, and it still really goes back to the same problem, is that years ago, so much of that resources had to get put into fighting the emerald ash borer and the effects that came from that, and not so much doing anything else, not doing that pruning, not doing non-ash species tree removal, not really being able to reforest. And so we see a lot of communities that are lagging behind now over the last 2 decades and really need this help a lot. So urban forestry is typically had the reputation of getting kind of pushed towards the end of the list when it came to these types of projects. And it's good to see that we're finally getting on board with all the environmental awareness that we have today. And it's a great thing. The other challenge that we saw in the past was that funding would always go towards technical assistance and tree planting. And so our company would go out and do, say, tree inventories and management plans and work plans for communities. But then, once they got that done, they didn't have any more money left to actually get the work done. So and one of my staff members specifically was always out there banging this drum, like we need to get communities money for tree removal and tree pruning and getting this work done, not just planning it from the beginning and then getting trees planted at the end. And finally, this latest round of funding enables us all to do that. And it's the first time that there's been money available for that. Now, where does career development tie into that? Well, it's simple, is that somebody's got to do all that work, and we just don't have enough certified arborists out there. So I'm just going to highlight one in specifically. We're working with two Northwest Indiana communities right now, which is LaPorte and Michigan City. I'm going to use LaPorte as the case study because number one, it's a few months ahead of where Michigan City is, and we've gained a lot of traction. Michael and Carol had come out to visit me this summer and saw some of the work that we're doing, and that's how we met, and that's how I got invited to be here today, as a matter of fact. But the way this project has gone is we performed a tree inventory back in 2019, and as I said before, there was no funding available to do anything actionable from what came of that tree inventory. All right, so then the city applied for a U.S. Forest Service grant in August 2023. We were awarded $1 million to actually this time update that tree inventory because it was 5 years old, and then get all the trees that need to be removed, get all the trees that need to be pruned and made safer for the community pruned, and then reforest the community and get that canopy restored for the next generation. 70% of the city of LaPorte falls within that disadvantaged area, where this grant money can be used. So that's a great thing. The first tree planting is actually going to take place next week. We got done with updating the tree inventory this summer. From that data, we were able to also collect places where there were no trees, and that's where we're starting with this tree planting by slotting trees into those open planting spaces. The 460 trees are going to be removed this winter, and then those open planting spaces will allow us to plant about 80 trees per planting season, spring, fall, over the next 5 planting seasons throughout the end of 2027. There will also be 1,200 trees removed to prove large and hazardous deadwood, but we're retaining those trees to keep their benefits of the mature trees. Now, here we go. Who's going to do all that work, right? We're already at a loss for certified arborists here in Northwest Indiana. And so we're really working to try to fix that. So another project that I'm working on is with the Indiana Arbor Association. All right, so the Indiana Arbor Association also applied for federal funding for workforce development. We've got a pretty good working relationship with them and have for several years. After they were awarded the funding, they brought us in as an external partner, and we launched the first ever registered arborist apprenticeship program in the state of Indiana. All right, this is available for the 4 northwesternmost counties, which is Lake, Porter, LaPorte County, which is where I'm at, and then 1 county over in St. Joseph County. And so we've been working since about April to find employers to mentor these apprentices, okay, and carry them for 3 years while they go through on-the-job training as well as classroom instruction. We're using the TCIA modules as a means of the classroom instruction. And then after that 3-year period, they'll sit for the certified arborist exam. We're also, it's been quite an effort to go out and recruit the apprentices themselves. And then once we put those 2 things together, it's just a matter of finding the right employer/mentor to work with that apprentice, and off they go for the next 3 years. So we had a goal to have 5 apprentices this first year, and then 10 by the end of the second year, and then 15 in the third year. Where we're at right now, it's pretty exciting to say at the beginning of October, I guess you'd say, officially saw the rubber meet the road, and we've got 2 apprentices out in the field working as of right now. One is working with the city of Michigan City, and another one is working with a private company out of Chesterton, Indiana, which is great. And then we've got 2 more that are going to be starting in the month of November, one with the city of South Bend and another with a utility company. So we're recruiting people from those 3 sectors, recruiting employers from those 3 sectors, private sector partners, municipal, and utility. That way we kind of give the apprentices a multifaceted view of what being an arborist and arboriculture and urban forestry, all those are all about. So yeah, we've got two apprentices in the field now. We're going to have two more this month, and then we're just lagging just a little bit behind that goal of 5 in the first year, but we do believe we'll get there. It's pretty exciting. So it's just a matter of saying, hey, if we're going to get all this work done, who's going to do it? Let's go find them and let's start a program that does it. So I think all these programs go together pretty well. So thank you very much for asking me to be part of this, and I'll be glad to continue to help you guys however I can.
Thank you so very, very much, Phil. Phil also provides training to corps out there to their members with regards to arboriculture and their interests. So the the significance to his involvement is that he's working with youth directly to spur interest, and also, highlights the fact that partnerships are critical to get this work done. Funding is one stream, I mean, one level, but the partnership development helps to build in sustainability and potential funding down the road. So excellent. Thank you very much for tying in very well with the previous two presenters, which is where we're, looking to go. And with that, I will introduce our next speaker that complements all of the others. We have Quinn Mendelson with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, bringing up uh, the the significance of our core collaborators. Thank you very much, Quinn. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Hi, everybody. My name is Quinn Mendelson. I'm the Conservation Program Director for Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to chat over the next 7 to 10 minutes about the core world, because there are hundreds of corps. I'll talk specifically about what we do. I'll talk about corps in general, and I'll talk about our urban forestry program in depth. So Rocky Mountain Youth Corps is a youth corps that serves young folks in New Mexico. Our mission is to inspire young adults to make a difference in themselves and in their communities. But stepping back, the Conservation Corps or Youth Corps world is vast. It can be traced back to the civilian Conservation Corps movement under FDR and looks a little bit different today. But we are focused on youth development, we're focused on projects, and we're focusing on serving our communities. So Rocky Mountain Youth Corps started in 1995 here in Taos, New Mexico, and opened an office in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2014. We've worked with thousands of young people to provide paid service opportunities in the outdoors. This is a broad program, but the idea is simple. We have crews of 8 individuals, 1 supervisor, 1 assistant crew leader, 6 corps members, and they work either on a spike or a day schedule. A spike schedule is 8 days on, 6 days off. Those folks are camping at or near their project site as a unit. They're cooking together, they're cleaning up together, they're telling stories while watching the stars together, they're waking up to the sunrise together. And there's also folks that work on a day schedule, but regardless of what format they work in, the idea is simple. We put young people into small, tight-knit communities in the outdoors, shouldered with responsibility and accountability, and support them as they grow into a deeper sense of self, purpose, and maturity. Along the way, they'll build trails, they'll restore streams and forests, and work to make a more resilient landscape in some of the most beautiful places on Earth. And whether this is just a summer job or the beginning of the work of a lifetime, our staff works to provide meaningful service opportunities that allow the young people in our program to embrace the promise of the world with open arms and to find their place in it. We'll go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit more about our project work and our format. But it's a combination of project work, of training, and support. And when we talk about training, we're talking about oftentimes technical training. So we're talking about how to build a trail, how to size up a tree, how to use a chainsaw safely. We offer certifications to the folks in our program. We use the Forest Service developing a Thinking Sawyer curriculum and work to provide a wide range of both technical and interpersonal support. So that interpersonal support can also look like resume or cover letter workshops, mock interviews, financial management training. And the other side of that is just, for a lot of folks, this is their first job. So part of that training is understanding that you need to show up to work on time. So whether it's the nitty gritty of how to clean a chainsaw or just the expectation of working a full day, we provide a wide range of support to these folks rather than just project-based. But for our program, we serve primarily 18 to 25-year-olds. This got a little bit screwed up in the formatting, it looks like, but I can still work with it. Our folks primarily work from April through November, so we're approaching our graduation date. We also have a summer program that works to serve folks as young as 16. And this can be doing trail work, historic preservation, habitat restoration, a wide variety of crew-based projects. But we also have individual placements, and that is maybe a fancier word for internship. But these are individuals that get placed at a specific agency or organization and work to add capacity, work directly with that staff. Oftentimes, this is not that individual's first job, and they're coming in, whether it's with some sort of educational background or a certification, but this adds capacity to an organization, and we oftentimes see these folks getting hired onto full-time staff positions in the organizations they're placed with. But next, I'll talk a little bit more about our urban forestry program in depth. This is a 3-year, $1 million program funded through the Inflation Reduction Act and made possible by the Core Network and the U.S. Forest Service. This is a picture of our urban forestry coordinator, Kate, working with one of our core members as Kate works with this individual to have them understand what it looks like the size of a tree, to fell a tree, to buck up a tree. The one-on-one education that comes through the core world is essential, and we see, not just from Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, but from cores all over the country, folks going into, whether it's the Forest Service, whether it's going into city or local open space divisions, or working with state parks, or working in a wide variety of jobs. This is a stepping stone program. So we offer chainsaw certifications. We see a lot of our folks go into arborist careers. We're just looking to increase career pathways and shine a light on all the good work there is to be done. Again, whether that's conservation, arboriculture, community planning, or green initiatives. We personally work with a wide range of partners. I'll highlight a few here. The City of Albuquerque, the Town of Taos, CUDOD Soil and Water Conservation District, our local conservancy district, the MRGCD, and the Forest Service to do a wide range of work. So with the city, we do a lot of bosque restoration. The bosque is a riparian environment. It's the Rio Grande flows through the city of Albuquerque, and alongside the Rio Grande, there is an area that's referred to as the bosque. It's the largest continuous cottonwood forest in the world. And our crews work with the city of Albuquerque and New Mexico state parks to steward that landscape, whether that's removing invasive species, planting new cottonwood trees, bucking up hazard trees, or increasing habitat for pollinators and animals that call that area home. It's a way for our crews to be heavily involved in the stewardship of a community resource. And through our urban forestry program, we're working to create a workforce that meets a lot of the ambitious climate goals that have been set. And while the climate-related goals may fluctuate between different administrations, the need to provide development opportunities to young people will always be essential. We are building the workforce of tomorrow and providing the tools for those folks to make a difference, to have their voices be heard, and for their work to be impactful. So our urban and community forestry program is an opportunity for us to engage folks from those communities directly into the community spaces that sustain those communities. Those are my slides, but I think in general, there are, looking through the guest list here, there are tons of conservation and youth corps that are attending this. So I think the goal for me here is for folks that are not engaged in the core world, there's most likely a local core for you around where you live or where you work. And engaging with those folks directly is an amazing way to access a ambitious and excited youth population that wants to be finding ways to work outdoors or on climate-related solutions-based projects. So whether it's, go from Rutland, Vermont to Long Beach, California, we're going to need to continue stewarding the outdoor spaces that sustain our communities. And urban and community forestry is a fantastic way to do that, and a fantastic way to get the young people in your communities engaged in this as a career. For a lot of folks, this is a first job. Rocky Mountain Youth Corps was a kind of a stepping stone for a lot of folks. For Senator Martin Heinrich, a Rocky Mountain Youth Corps alum, that's not a career that went heavily into conservation, but it was a launching off point that helped understand the scope of the world and how much opportunity there is to engage in it. So for the folks that are from the core world, this is also a really exciting way to offer community-based project work to the young people that you serve. So whether you're from the core world or not from the core world, I'm more than happy to chat with folks about ways that this can work for you. And I guess I'll just end with a big thank you here to the core network for the support and for giving Rocky Mountain a opportunity to chat more about the work that we do and how we're serving young people in our community.
Thank you very much for that, Quinn. And I really appreciate your championing the stewardship of the core initiative. And as Daisy mentioned, network. Please reach out to these folks. They are a value add to your endeavors. And one thing I'd like to mention, while we were out there in New Mexico and we visited the town of the city of Taos, the director of their resource management is a Rocky Mountain Corps alum as well, and he knew the area like the back of his hand, and definitely is a part of the community, wants to sustain the community and grow the community, and because he's from the community, and to meet this individual in concert with Quinn and the executive director for Rocky Mountain Youth Corps to see this person's admiration for the lifestyle and the dedication that they've provided him to flourish is a true the truest commitment that the Corps offer their members. So thank you very much, Quinn, for that. And with that, we are moving to Riley with the City of Vancouver, who has a very unique position with regards to urban forestry and its growth and development in the city of Vancouver, Washington. Riley.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Riley. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Hopefully, Michael, can you see that? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for showing up today. My name is Riley Schleiss. I work for Vancouver, Washington's Urban Forestry Department. And this past summer, I had the pleasure to be a crew leader for our first ever Environmental Youth Corps, or EYC. And this program was built in an effort to implement workforce development opportunities in urban forestry. Here's a brief outline of what I'll talk about today. First, the structure of our program, where we worked, how we helped youth develop urban forestry skills, key partnerships, and finally, our impact. So Environmental Youth Corps was created with three main goals. One, to increase our city's capacity to establish young trees. Two, help local youth prepare for the growing green industry. And three, to tend to environmental injustices in the city. And we achieved these goals in several ways, with lessons from all urban forestry staff members, field trips to nurseries and natural areas, partnerships with nonprofits, career panels, and finally, the youth presented their work to the Urban Forestry Commission. This summer, we had 2 cohorts, each were 4 weeks long, and all 5 youth from the first cohort chose to come back for the second cohort, which was pretty good. I was happy with that. Each cohort also had 2 crew captains. They were the youth, and they had additional responsibilities such as collecting data about our work. They got a little bit higher pay because of those extra responsibilities. And crew captains rotated from one cohort to the next because we wanted more youth to have this leadership opportunity. And we also wanted to teach that leadership should be shared. All of our work was in disadvantaged communities, and these are underfunded, overburdened, overpolluted census tracts as defined by the Justice 40 initiative. We tried to work in as many different site types as possible throughout Vancouver. We worked in parks, schools, community gardens, churches, natural areas, mall parking lots. We really tried to see as many different sites as possible. Youth were able to meaningfully connect with all urban forestry staff members with group lessons like pruning, tree pests and diseases, etc. And then youth were able to directly implement the things that they learned to improve our city's trees and collect data that the department will actually use. For instance, we spent lots of time inventorying trees, which involves tree species identification, taking diameter measurements, and then recording this data in our GIS platform. We use Tree Plotter. And so this data directly translates into a better understanding of our canopy's diversity, connectivity, and of course, equity gaps. Additionally, we worked closely with local nonprofits to introduce youth to other green career pathways and to also connect them with climate leaders from their neighborhoods. We got lessons on native pollinators from Vancouver Bee Project, and we got to collaborate a few times with Fourth Plane Forward on career panels, mural restoration, and we even did a litter pickup in a park that we went to several times, and they got to meet some volunteers. Here's a snapshot of our quantitative accomplishments that the crew captains collected. We helped establish, meaning we hand weeded and mulched and watered over 400 trees. We pruned 96 trees. We inventoried over 1,000 trees. And we identified over 300 sites for new trees in disadvantaged communities. To try to quantify the impact on our youth participants, I made a brief pre and post survey. And first, I wanted to highlight that this internship was a first job for almost half of our participants. They're all in high school. And it was a good first job experience, I think, just with the we only met 3 days a week, and so they all seemed to really like that schedule. So they could either have another job or they can have a weekend, a long weekend as to their preference. But because it was a first job, just like others in this presentation we're talking about, remembering like bringing a lunch and a water bottle was a very important lesson for a lot of our youth. We also got to, I asked about their confidence in some of these different green industry skills. We saw an increase in their confidence across all sample categories. And I like to highlight a few in particular. We saw an average increase of 88% in their confidence to identify trees and a 33% average increase in their ability to explain environmental equity. Finally, we asked them to rate how much they liked the internship activities. A rating of 5 meant that they loved it. A rating of 1 meant that they hated it. And fortunately, no one said that they disliked or hated anything. And I will take that as a win, especially working with teenagers. They're awesome. Like, they are truly awesome. But yes, I will take that happily. And here on the left is a photo of some of the youth. Not all of them were able to attend, but most of them were able to present to the city's Urban Forestry Commission. They were very scared to do this, but they really rocked it. And it was really awesome to see them presenting to the commission, but also their family members, their community members about the work that they did over the summer. And yeah, these are just a couple of quotes from the youth that participated in this program. One said, "I felt very fulfilled. I love the program." Another said, "UIC is an amazing way to spend your summer." Another said, the tree identification aspect of this job has done more than teach me about nature. It's reshaped how I think." And another said, "Learning about what urban forestry does has inspired me to enroll in AmeriCorps and continue working with trees and to help my community." These youth are genuinely amazing. I had so much fun working with them and seeing them grow and become more confident, become friends, play on the playgrounds of the parks that we took care of. It's really great to see 17-year-olds enjoy being kids. And yeah, for some of these students, it was not their first job choice, but like I said, all 5 of the students who participated chose to come back. And several students mentioned that they want to work as either environmental technicians, environmental engineers, urban foresters. One even said they want to be an environmental novelist. So I'm pretty hopeful that we had some sort of positive impact on these youth. And I'm really proud of them and excited to see where they go. Thank you to the youth that participated in this program, to the U.S. Forest Service and the Core Network for making this possible. And thank you all for listening today.
Thank you so very, very much, Riley. We're really excited about what you guys are doing out there in Vancouver, significantly with the youth, and where you're going. You're arborist. You have a city arborist who helped to create the urban forestry initiative years and years and years ago in Vancouver. So it's good to have this component being added for sustainability and growth and development, because there's a lot of development going on in the city of Vancouver, and sustaining life is imperative to that growth and development. One thing we saw there while we were there, the tree canopy is somewhat non-existent in those residential areas, which increase utility costs and thus can impact healthcare, income, disposable income when you're trying to. And so it's amazing when people say, "Why trees? What's what trees do?" They can make a tremendous impact on the livelihood and the health of the community and families. So that's we saw that. Thank you very much for you guys' commitment, and which is very synonymous with the commitment of our cores and the organizations that TCN is supporting. We're supporting 11 programs under our Urban Community Forestry Initiative to address these concerns. So we're really glad to be a part of this effort. And are working towards a sustainable community and urban development. So, urban forestry, excuse me. With that, I am going to go to questions. I think we have a few to start with. And the one question we had early on is about federal funding, I believe. And with the current change in administration, how will this be sustained, if it will be sustained? And I don't know. I know that we are moving forward to date with the commitment of 3 to 5 years to make this a reality. And I think in that we are showing and seeing the partnership developments that are taking place. Folks working with the cities, working with the states, and showing to Raleigh's point, how the youth can commit to or show and present to the commissions the relevancy to this initiative and to help with sustaining it. I It's short of any more. I have about as much information as anyone else out here on that, and I don't want to make any promises, but I definitely don't want to deflate the initiative and the energy that's going on now, and based on the needs for more capital. That's always the case. But I think through the partnerships that we're hearing about, um, they are building in sustainability uh, to help promote this initiative. I think the next question, but I can, if anyone else would like to speak to that, please do. I don't want to own that or speak on behalf of everyone, but if not, the other um, I do want to make mention though, before I move on, I recognize our program officer with the United States Forest Service, um, urban urban forestry initiative. Jonathan Lampley has joined us, and I want to make sure he gets proper recognition. He has been a stalwart in this work and promoting an expansion of it, and ensuring that these types of commitments are supported. And with that, so thank you very much, Jonathan, for being here and your dedication. Um, and and we have another question for, I think, Riley. If I missed the question in between there, please let me know. But Riley, there's a question to you from Diane Butler. Can you share your curriculum? They are reviewing options for a cohort of reentering citizens. Um,
Yeah, I am happy to share kind of our structure. We day-to-day activities kind of varied. We had to change course a lot and just be flexible, with partners, whether they were available or not, changing schedules. Yeah, but I would say general rule is that our work was very, very place-based and specific to Vancouver. But yeah, I'm happy to brainstorm about what this might look like in other places and just a general structure of how we introduced youth to the world of trees and urban planning, while also maintaining um, our green spaces and improving environmental equity.
But that would be great because I think a lot of the guys that and women that are reentering after incarceration, well, many of them don't even have GEDs yet. So we are trying to get a more basic version of some of the curriculums that are out there. And I think what you're talking about in 4 weeks is probably very it's something we could probably do. And I realize it's going to be very site-based, but and maybe different in that respect here in Annapolis, Maryland, or the Baltimore area. But yeah, it'd be really super interesting. So I'll if your contact information is available, I can connect with you offline.
I'll enter
Thank
it in
you.
the chat. Thank you so much.
all right, excellent engagement. Thank you very much. And with that, we have a question for Phil. You mentioned Indiana's apprenticeship program. Has Indiana done anything to foster partnership with cores? If so, what does that look like? Asking because of state's apprenticeship program viewed cores as competition rather than a partner.
The one youth corps that we have partnered with is the SCA, and which runs out of Gary, Indiana. And so that's Student Conservation Association. I do believe they are a nationwide group. Drew Hart with U.S. Forest Service has connected us with Leo, if you're aware of who he is. And actually, one of our two apprentices came from his program, and they're committed to almost um, uh, I don't know how to say it differently, but essentially be a feeder program into our program because most of their cohort are all in that 18 to 20-year-old demographic, and so they really kind of fit nicely into starting there and learning some basic foundational skills that are necessary before you come an arborist, things such as watering and mulching and staking and pruning of very small trees for like establishment pruning and those kind of things. So as for right now, that's who we've partnered with. I do want to say also, though, just to go back to the last question too, I want to offer our curriculum too, if anyone would like to see it. And I'll also want to give a shout out to the Wisconsin Arbor Association, who also was one of our predecessors. They started their program, I think, about 2 or 3 years before we did ours, and they were very generous in helping us out and letting us use some of their uh, work as a template and sort of uh, letting it evolve on our accord just to make it our own. But they've been very cooperative with us as well, and I can connect you with anyone here. I can connect with them if you're interested.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that, Phil. And know that for everyone that joined we will be sharing their contact information at the close, or they will share it in the chat as well. This video or their presentations will be provided um, as well. The next question I have is from Claire Morisi for Quinn. What technical training beyond chainsaw training are you providing UCF members?
Yeah, absolutely. So these folks go through our standard core curriculum. So they receive a wide range of trainings, but specific to these crews. So they have exposure to arborists. We're not able to, or really the right entity to issue an arborist certification. We provide exposure to folks. They get some kind of like classroom-based training as well as some exposure in the field, working kind of to use the lingo, kind of working as groundies a little bit, kind of working as that base level, introductory level individual. We provide them with chainsaw certifications when they're ready. We provide red cards to individuals that are interested in transitioning into fire. They receive wilderness first aid, mental health first aid, education around tree identification, pruning education, and kind of through the program, indirectly a general systems-based ecology education that they can take with them that goes far beyond the length of their term at Rocky Mountain. I think the other thing that is kind of adjacent to this is just the degree of networking that happens in the project. So when we have a crew working with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, they're working, side by side with folks that are professionals and career-based individuals in that field. When they're working with Valencia Soil and Water Conservation District, they're working right next to those folks. And what ends up happening is that turns into jobs down the road. That turns into the folks that they reach out to when it's time to transition out of the Corps. And those folks oftentimes are the ones that provide a lot of those certifications. But for our folks, really what it is these people that they work kind of side by side with, at the end of the day, when they transition from Rocky Mountain Youth Corps to that agency or that organization, you're providing them with, a uniform, you're showing them where the bathroom is, but they already speak the language. They know how to do this work and they've been engaged in this work. And then when they enter your organization, whatever certifications are required, they're ready to essentially test for them or what have you. So we provide a certain level of certification, and then whoever they go to next, wherever the kind of the stepping stone leads to, they provide the more specific certification that's needed to accomplish that work.
Thank you very much, Quinn. I appreciate that. Emily Morrow, I don't want to skip over this. It's what did you ask the question, what did you say about your curriculum? I believe that was directed to Phil that you do have a curriculum as well that you'd be willing to share. I'm not certain, but I believe following that, we have a question for Jamie With regards to the arborist certification, does college count, or does it only include direct work experience within the arborist field? And I think there was a response from Jamie in the text. All this is in the chat. Uh, Jamie responded to Eli, 2-year associate degree with a minimum of 2 courses directly related to arboriculture. Counts for a year of work experience. 4-year bachelor's degree with a minimum of 4 courses directly related to arboriculture counts for 2 years of work experience. I appreciate that Q&A. And uh, Diane says, thanks for sharing contact information, curriculum. And also throwing out there from Hannah with American Forest has a pre-employment curriculum as a free resource for training programs. And they included the link there. This in encouraging folks to check it out. So network, sharing information, collaboration builds this initiative as well. More info on the credentialing can be found here from Jamie. All right. Okay. Last, a question from Matthew. What skills and certifications are employers in the urban forestry field looking for? I guess that's open for everyone.
I can take first crack at answering this one.
Thank you, Phil.
So actually, it depends on the field. I can tell you that in the tree care and tree maintenance fields of urban forestry, employers are desperately looking for climbers, tree trimmers, people who are willing to learn how to either climb or operate aerial lifts. Of course, there's always a need for ground workers too. That's kind of the entry level position in like the tree care industry, so to speak. And there is a desperate need for that, as far as I can tell, with in my geographic area, without a doubt. As an employer in the field of urban forestry, our entry level at our company, Great Lakes Urban Forestry, is to be a certified arborist. Tree identification skills are imperative, and we also look for track qualified. That's a tree risk assessment qualification that I think Jamie mentioned in his initial presentation. So when we're assessing trees for the sake of tree inventories or any kind of consulting, knowing tree risk and how to mitigate tree risk, how to identify tree risk are skills that are needed. Yeah, and there's from the urban forestry side, there's so many things. Report writing skills. I mean, there's so many things that are not necessarily based on the being in the field type that we're looking for, and these are all things that we provide. We provide continuing education for our employees to continually better themselves in those ways. But I think with a lot of the apprenticeship programs too, it's and I mentioned this before, that's why some of these great youth cohorts like Riley has going in Vancouver is awesome, because the things they start out doing are those like basic foundational things. I can't repeat this enough. Someone has to learn how to water trees and mulch trees and do all that. Make sure just like that post-planting care after trees are planted is so critical in the life of that tree, to try to get that tree to become a mature tree and get all the benefits that we're investing in from the very beginning. And it's such a great way for young people and young cohorts as a whole to start, just because it's less labor intensive, and I don't want to say less skilled, but it is kind of true. And that's those building blocks. Once they can accomplish that, then they go up to the next thing and the next thing, and then after that 3 years, then they can sit for the certified arborist exam, and then just keep working up through the field of urban forestry or wherever it goes from there. So that's why I think it's a great model to start with some of the youth programs. I can't say enough about that.
Thank you very much for that, Phil. Anyone else?
Yeah, Michael, I can speak to it maybe from the
Thank
Forest
you,
Service
Jonathan.
perspective.
Yes, sir.
But I just, real quickly on me, I'm one of the national program specialists for urban and community forestry, who has the pleasure of working with the Court Network and a ton of other organizations that are here mentioned. But for me, me as an example, I'm not a traditional urban forester. I have a general forestry and natural resource background. So entering into a role specifically with the urban and community forestry staff, we really like to see just kind of some ecology, natural resource, forestry background. And it's just a major plus if you have an urban forestry background, but just any general type of forestry background. Partnership expertise experience is really huge, because as you all know, as we see across the screen now, we can't do the work that we do without each of you, without engaging in new partnerships, existing partnerships, and leveraging those partnerships. So partnership experience is another huge plus to make sure to have. Community engagement, having some level of experience in engaging with community, local organization, nonprofits, other government entities, is another huge plus. So I can probably go name a few others, but those are probably the first that come to mind when looking at skills to enter the urban and community forestry workforce. And those are really specific to the urban and community forestry staff within the Forest Service.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Phil. All right. Riley, yes, please.
Yeah, totally echo what Phil and Jonathan have said. I think there's also other ways to engage. If you are not an outside person, you can have really great mapping skills, GIS certifications. You can get a job so many different pathways. Yeah, so mapping skills, GIS, is something that I would really emphasize. A lot of employers like to see that certification. And yeah, people skills. How do you respond when you're out in the field and someone says, my tree is too big, I need to cut it down? So yeah, people skills, mapping is what I would vouch for.
Excellent. Excellent. We also have some cores that we're supporting that are doing and looking at landscaping and how topography also helps with that, and scoping. So I really um, encourage a lot of organizations that are out there doing this work to continue and leverage what you're doing in this line. Um, it looks like Jono, I don't know if this is a comment or it looks like it's a question from Jono. I had to jump off for a few minutes, so if this question has been answered, please ignore. But if not, I'd be curious to hear, especially from Quinn, whose core operates in rural communities.
Smaller rural
Smaller.
communities.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeno. Smaller rural communities that have limited financial and personal resources for urban forestry. What is the pipeline for jobs for young people gaining urban forestry qualifications? And I think you started to speak to that, Quinn. So yes,
Yeah,
please.
that's a great question. I think that we see a lot of the folks. Well, we have two offices. One is heavily urban, one is heavily rural. Albuquerque, New Mexico is the largest city in New Mexico. Taos, New Mexico is a small town in northern New Mexico. So in Taos, we see a lot of our folks after moving on from the Corps. Some go to federal agencies, so the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamation. We see an even larger number go into more local agency work. So local open space divisions, different organizations that are working to add capacity to those organizations. Definitely some folks that go into arboriculture and become arborists. We also see folks going into the nonprofit space, not just here at Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, but others around the area. But I would say it's a mix of mostly like kind of the local government field. Like Michael alluded to or directly said, the director of the Taos Open Space Division, the Parks and Rec, is a Rocky Mountain alum, and it was awesome to walk through an area that our urban forestry crew is actively working on that, around 20 years ago, that individual was working on with his crew. So we see a lot of folks going to to the local organizations and staying in their community, which is an amazing way in a state like New Mexico to kind of grow our own and keep that knowledge in town, so to speak, and build up the local capacity. But the other side of it is some folks will go find a different job that isn't directly related to this, but will take this and it will become a core aspect of what they do as a community member moving forward. Our urban forestry crews, whenever we're felling hazard trees, we buck that up and we bring it to a central location for community firewood. And that goes to heating folks' homes in their community. And so whether this becomes their career or informs the manner in which they will show up in their community, it continues to have a ripple effect long after. But to more directly answer your question, we see the majority of folks staying in kind of the local government area at town, county open space divisions, conservancy districts, conservation districts, working on acequia boards, things like that.
Thank you, Quinn. If we have time for one, possibly two, definitely one more question, for the good of the order. You can either, since it's the last one, you can either shout it out or put it in the chat. It's okay. This has been great. The exchange has been great. Hopefully it continues. This was just the initiating process within the area of urban forestry, workforce development, and career pathway. As we
Hey,
see the
Michael.
need. Yes, yes, go ahead, Daisy,
While we're
please.
thinking about a question, I had a direct question from somebody, and I thought maybe I should just announce it to everyone as we are in partnership with the core network and many of the folks on this call.
Please do.
And one of the opportunities offered through these partnerships, at least for federal service, is the public land corps hiring certificates. So for any corps that are part of the public land corps program, if you do 640 hours of service, it can be one tour, many tours with one partner, multiple partners, and you're between the ages of 16 and 30 or up to 35 for veterans. You can qualify for a public land corps hiring certificate, which is good for permanent federal careers. And the good news is that you can earn it at the Forest Service, apply at the Bureau of Land Management. You can earn it at the Bureau of Land Management, apply to the Forest Service, but it is good across multiple federal agencies. You just look for that public land corps opening on USA Jobs, and certainly you can reach out to any of the federal land managers to learn more or learn how to utilize that certificate. The good news is it doesn't require a college degree. You just need a GED or high school diploma. So it can be a great way to get experience and possibly launch into a federal career. But as others have said on this call, and being from a small rural community in New Mexico myself, we're very community based, and the experiences you gain from public land corps can be utilized. We'd love to see you working with our partners, working for us, working with other parts of the community. And so really, we're all in this together as a community. So I just wanted to make that announcement for anybody who might be interested.
Thank you very, very much for that input, Daisy. That was going to be one of my questions if I didn't have a question. So I really appreciate you for saving me and for that. Great. So there are literally two more questions that are really, really good. So I may get in trouble for this, but Devin has a great question for, not that our question, not like the rest of them weren't great, but for after a core experience, would any of you suggest a formal education or look for more experience opportunities? It's one, kind of like the combo. What is the biggest piece of advice? This is from Matthew. What is the biggest piece of advice you would give to young people interested in entering the urban forestry field? Two very powerful questions moving forward. Yeah, Quinn, saw your hand.
Yeah, so I'm happy to take the first crack at it. I think Phil and Jamie also can speak well to this. But I think the beauty of the core experience is the massive majority of cores are aligned with AmeriCorps. And what that means is when you complete your term of service, you unlock an education award. So for example, we have a large cohort graduating on November 15th here at Rocky Mountain, and those folks are completing 1,200-hour terms. So when they complete that, when they graduate, they're unlocking a $5,175 education award that can go right to their continued education. So I think really what that is, that's a choice for you to make. But the goal of the core is not just to give personal and professional experience, but also to make it easier to pursue education. So whether you decide that that's the right step or going right into the field is the right step, ideally a core experience makes it easier to say yes to the educational side of things. And as far as the biggest piece of advice, something that we say to the folks in our programs is if there's someone who you see where you are interested in what their career looks like, talk to them about what their pathway looks like. For some folks, the landscape has changed since they entered that field. So talk to them about what they would suggest you would do if you wanted to head into that field or if you wanted to get to that spot eventually. I think it comes down to networking. The best piece of advice is networking, is reaching out to the folks who are able to provide opportunities or have careers that sound really interesting to you, and find ways to get in touch with them and find a way to have them help you make that decision.
Thank you, Quinn. Anyone like to add to that on the panel?
As for the first part, certainly if someone has the means or the opportunity to get the formal education, it can never hurt. And there's just so many great schools out there and great programs, from everything from natural resources through horticulture, through forestry. There's just so many related fields there that, opportunity certainly abounds. But our industry never disqualifies those who are not college bound or don't have the means or opportunity. I've got people within my organization, one in particular who I think Michael and Carol met when they came out, who started as an 18-year-old right out of high school. And he's flourishing now. He's 6 years into our industry. He's a certified arborist. I'm really proud of the way I've seen him, advance every day. So either way, it can be done. It really just depends on the person and what they want to do. And Quinn, outstanding, advice there. Network, get involved in organizations, volunteer group, everything you can do. Just be around a lot of people inside of our industry, and the opportunities will beat you down with a stick for sure. Great answer, Quinn. Thank you.
I guess I would just add that, and this is along the lines of what Phil and Quinn said, a lot of people are not interested in the formal college education, but do want some kind of proof that they have attained a level of experience in the field. And that's what the ISA certification can provide. It's a lot easier than going to college, but it sets you apart as someone who is dedicated and committed to an arboriculture urban forestry profession.
Thank you so much, Jamie. It seems that we've gained so much insight here, and it may spill over to other areas of what we do in regards to building these collaborations and having these dialogues and discussions with Bud. Unfortunately, we do have to come to a close, and it would happen with all these wonderful questions and exchanges, of course, but that needs to be encouraged to continue them on. So I'd like to say thank you all very much. Thank you to our excellent panelists, Daisy, Phil, Quinn, Riley, and Jamie. We applaud you. We are great. We are greatly indebted to your service, and wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you to everyone watching. We appreciate your time and your input and your inquisitiveness and dedication to the communities you serve. We also, this has been a very, very informative and inspiring exchange. At least I feel that. I know I'm not allowing you guys to speak right now because I have to get through this time crunch. But anyway, a reminder to there's a recording of today's session, and it will be posted later today and on our website at corenetwork.org. In our events tab, webinars, please explore. We also have a few quick reminders about some upcoming events. November 8th, Core 25 workshop proposals are due. Core 25 award nominees are due. If you'd like to participate in Core Con 25, please go to our website, register, consider joining us. And we have our post webinar survey. Please, please, please fill that out. Let us know how to do better, other than no, Michael Summers should not be allowed to monitor anymore. Also, uh, more sessions to be announced soon, and find updates on our website events for upcoming webinars. Now, I have a great group of guys out there doing the work. I really enjoy the support we're able from the core network that we're able to give to these implementers and builders of community and sustainers of our environment. So thank you guys so very, very much for the work you do. Um, and with that, I think, uh, oh, we join us later this month on November 19th for webinar Owning Your Narrative with Dr. Elizabeth Santiago. More information on that session can be found on our website as well. We value your feedback, folks, and please, please engage, continue to engage with each other as we grow this initiative. With that, we will say until tomorrow.